As busy homeschool moms, it's hard to find time for the things that we need to do that are important to us, right? And today specifically, I want to talk about finding time to plan. This is one I hear a lot, that it's hard to find time to plan for the homeschool day. And so when the homeschool day comes, it doesn't feel as organized or as meaty or as good as it could be. Hi, I'm Kenna. I help parents inspire an environment of learning in their home. I'm glad you're here. Today I'm just going to share a few things that have worked for me and worked for other people I know, and then you can decide if these are ideas you can incorporate in your life or if it sparks other ideas that are just yours. The thing that we can all agree on is that we need to plan for a successful homeschool, right? And that sometimes it's hard to fit that in. And I've even heard people say, and I felt myself, that I spend the time planning and then I don't have the time to implement, or I get to the time to implement and if I haven't taken that time to plan, it doesn't feel complete. It's not what I imagined in my mind. And I had all these big ideas, but then I never found time to put them into action, right? And so that's the kind of ideas I want to focus on today, is just trying to carve out that time and ways to make that happen. My first idea is Sunday afternoons. Of course, it doesn't have to be Sunday afternoons. That's where it fits well for me. But the point is to find a time that is set aside for a little bit of planning for the week. I learned an idea from Oliver DeMille that I love, and that's simply taking time to write the name of your child on top of a piece of paper, and then you just have a little brainstorm period where you are brainstorming things that your child needs from you and things that you could help inspire. And so it's a list for you with that child in mind. Does that make sense? It's not things that they need to do as much as things that you need to do to help them become and to make the right next step. And that is really helpful, to think of each child one at a time like that, to think about what's most important, because after I brainstorm those lists, then I look through them and it feels clear the most important things to fit into the week ahead. And it's not always the planned anything, right? Sometimes it's something new and sometimes it is what's planned. But when I make those lists, I know. I get clarity on what's most important for that week, and then I can schedule those things in and plan specifically for those things that are most important for the ones I'm mentoring. I also have a routine that I do. I use an intentional week calendar and that I created. I have an audio, it's free, over on my Health Wellness Purpose website that I did explaining how I did it and giving you access to that page. I can link that below in the notes. But basically, it's just time for me to think about every area of my life and the most important things that happen in those areas of life, and then trying to make sure they have a place in the week that's coming up. Once you know those most important things, then you know what needs to be planned, right? And some of it you can do because they're quick. And some of them you need to find the time during the week to do it. So the rest of the tips are finding time during the week to plan those specific things once you know what's important. One thing that I do is I add this to my morning routine. So in the morning, I get up before my kids and I do some basics for me, and then I spend some time preparing. And these can only be if there's small details. This isn't the time that I have to do major planning, but it is time to take care of the small details, like to print certain things that I know I need for a certain activity that day, or to get organized with the facts that I want to share pertaining to a specific subject that day, just to get myself prepared so that when it comes, I feel like I kind of know where I'm coming from. And this can be such a short time. That's why that other planning, right, is important, because then you know the most important things to do in that morning, to print the right things, to study the right things so that you are ready for that homeschool moment. Another tip is I just like to look for tools that simplify the planning. I created long ago a chart. I just went through all these math curriculums and I created a chart of incremental learning in math, so that now when I am helping my children with math, I can look at that, I can kind of see where we're at and what the gaps are, and I can pick or find or create a unit that specifically fills in some of those gaps or activities for that next thing. And so a big overview of what my scope is for math or what my scope is for writing can help me be able to just grab one thing from that scope and find something particular to get ready for that day. And so those things help organize the big picture. And then in those small moments that I have during the day, morning, afternoon, or evening, right? Anytime that you have those small moments, you can grab and just prepare one little bit of the big picture. Taking more time once in a while to figure out the big picture, I do it seasonally, really helps me be able to just pick during the season to try to fill in the framework that I've already set up. Another option is to find something that you can base rabbit trails on, right? Like, I call it the spine. I think that's a pretty common term, right? The spine of a curriculum, where it could be a children's magazine, it could be a particular book that you're reading, and you use that book to just wonder about other things and then use those rabbit trails to explore other areas. And that way it's very simple, right? Because you're just picking one thing to focus on, but then together you guys search different rabbit trails in that one thing. The Well-Educated Heart books are great for this. That's Marlene Peterson. I will link that below. Go to welleducatedheart.com if you don't know who she is. She's got so many great resources that are great to use for a spine that you can branch out from in all different directions from the book that you're reading together. But even fiction books will work. We recently read Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of Nim, and in there's plenty of things for you to wonder about and to explore and use rabbit trails on that. And so you could read a chapter and be like, okay, what do you wonder about from that chapter? What should we dig into? That would work. One other thing that I've done that has been really successful is just to use my homeschool day for planning. As in, once a month, I just know that on a Monday, I'm going to spend time planning what my kids want to learn about a certain subject, the subject of the month. They might even help pick the focus for that month. And at that moment, I might present some options or ideas of topics, and they will pick a topic, and then they will, with me, brainstorm ways they could learn about it and things they want to know. And that way, I get their buy-in. And I don't have to find extra time to plan because I'm doing it as part of the homeschool day, which is fun. And then it makes them feel more invested in what we're learning anyway, right? When you're planning, I think it's important to simplify, right? Complex does not mean better. And so if you simplify your schedule and you have your main focus or goal, then that helps you need less time for the actual planning of the details, right? And if you have an overarching big goal for, say, the spelling or reading goals for that month, then you can pick out and just work on things throughout the day. If you know that you want to incorporate poetry tea time, then having some lovely poetry books just on your bookshelf that you can pull out and randomly pick a poem when you want to share it is a way just to make it simple, right? So brainstorm ways to simplify the planning, because sometimes we make it more complex than it needs to be. Finding time to plan doesn't have to be complex, and if you have little snippets of time throughout the week, you can make it work. I know you can, because little snippets of time add up. And if you know what you want to do, right, I think it's critical to find out what the most important things are to focus on, and then you grab those little moments to make those a reality for your kids. And simplify. It doesn't have to be fancy, and you can plan it together with your kids. I hope this helps as you're thinking about finding time to plan and to do those things and fit in all the other things that are so important to you. I hope some of these tips helped. Next week, I'm going to talk about finding time for self-care, for the things that make us happy and healthy and better in all the other areas of our life. So subscribe and turn that bell on so that you can hear about upcoming videos. Thanks for watching. Here's to you for creating an intentional home culture of learning. You've got this.